The men at the cafe window looked like someone the day had already defeated. Morning light poured through the glass, soft and golden, yet it did nothing to ease the weight sitting on his shoulders. His suit was expensive but worn with exhaustion, his coffee untouched, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond the busy street as if he were watching a life that no longer belonged to him. He had built empires, signed deals worth millions, and commanded rooms full of people, but in that quiet cafe, he looked painfully alone. When the young widow standing beside his table finally spoke, her words landed like a quiet thunderstorm in his chest, because they sounded like truth he had been trying to outrun. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that can change a life, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Ethan Caldwell had learned how to survive pressure, but not grief. At 42, he was the CEO of a global tech firm, known for ruthless focus and tireless ambition. What no headline mentioned was the cost of that success. 2 years earlier, his marriage had quietly collapsed under missed anniversaries, late nights, and an absence that grew wider than any boardroom table. His wife hadn't shouted or begged. She had simply left one morning, leaving behind a note that said she felt lonelier with him than without him. Since then, Ethan filled his days with work and his mornings with this cafe, the one place where no one asked him to perform. Across from him stood Clara Hayes, a part-time cafe worker whose eyes carried stories far heavier than her age suggested. At 28, she was already a widow. Her husband, a schoolteacher with gentle hands and an unshakable laugh, had died suddenly from a heart condition that no one saw coming. Clara learned in one afternoon how fragile forever really was. Since then, she worked mornings and afternoons to support herself, finding strange comfort in routine and small kindnesses exchanged over cups of coffee. That morning, Clara noticed Ethan the way she noticed certain customers, those who sat too still, who forgot their drinks, who seemed to breathe from somewhere deep inside their chest. Something about him reminded her of her husband in his final months, not sick, but tired in a way sleep could never fix. The words slipped out before she could stop them, and once spoken, they couldn't be taken back. The moment hung between them, heavy but honest. Ethan didn't respond immediately. He felt exposed, not insulted. For the first time in years, someone had seen past the tailored suit and polished watch. Clara quickly realized she had crossed an invisible line and retreated, embarrassed, but the damage, or perhaps the miracle, had already been done. Ethan left the cafe that day carrying more than his briefcase. He carried a question he hadn't dared ask himself: when had he started looking like someone already gone? Days passed, and then weeks. Ethan kept returning to the cafe, not because the coffee was exceptional, but because the space felt human. Clara never pried, never asked who he was or what he did. She simply served, smiled, and moved on, yet her quiet presence softened something in him. He began to notice the morning light again, the rhythm of the street, the simple comfort of being somewhere without expectations. For Clara, those mornings became something she looked forward to as well. She wasn't falling in love, not yet, but she felt seen in a way she hadn't since losing her husband. Ethan listened when she spoke about ordinary things, books she loved, the small apartment she was slowly turning into a home, the way grief sometimes arrived without warning. He never tried to fix her pain. He simply carried it respectfully, and that alone felt like kindness. The real challenge came when Ethan's world demanded him back fully. A major company crisis required longer hours, harder decisions, and the old version of himself threatened to return. One morning, he didn't come to the cafe. Then another passed. Clara told herself it didn't matter, yet the absence felt louder than she expected. It reminded her how easily people disappeared, how quickly routines shattered. When Ethan finally returned, weeks later, he looked different. Still tired, but lighter somehow. He had made changes, delegated power, stepped away from constant control, even taken weekends off for the first time in years. He realized that success without connection was just another kind of failure. Clara saw the shift before he ever spoke of it. Sometimes change announces itself quietly, in posture, in breath, in presence. Their bond deepened not through grand gestures but through shared silence and understanding. Two people who had lost different things found healing in simply being human together. There was no promise, no dramatic confession, just a growing sense that life, even after loss, still had room for warmth. As the months passed, Clara began to dream again, not of replacing what she had lost, but of honoring it by continuing to live fully. Ethan, too, found himself rediscovering meaning beyond metrics and meetings. He began mentoring young employees, reconnecting with family, and allowing himself moments of rest without guilt. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment near the end to like this video, share it, and let us know in the comments how it made you feel. Your engagement keeps these emotional stories alive. On a bright afternoon, sunlight filling the cafe like a blessing, Ethan and Clara shared a quiet moment by the window. No labels, no expectations, just two souls who had survived storms and found each other standing in the calm that followed. Healing hadn't erased their pain, but it had softened its edges, reminding them that endings do not cancel the possibility of new beginnings. Before the story closes, we have one special request. Please comment the word hope if you believe kindness can still change lives. Because sometimes, all it takes is one honest sentence, spoken at the right moment, to remind someone they are still here, still seen, and still worthy of a second chance.